In the previous video, we were able to use Google Auth authentication to allow user to log in. And when the user is logged in and tries to attend an event, we have this confirmation dialog asking whether he or she is sure to actually RSVP for this event, but we're not doing anything here. So in this video, we're going to actually complete or at least partially the RSVP functionality. First of all, we want to ask ourselves, what is RSVP? RSVP in terms of business logic here is basically a relationship between users and events. So a user wants to potentially join an event, then we have a RSVP. So because it is a relationship, right, we need to create two extra tables or two extra entities, first of all. The first one is the user, and the second one is the RSVP, which is the relationship table. For that, we actually go ahead and try to create the entity first. So let's scroll up and go to the data folder, and then we have only one entity right now. Let's create another one, and let's call it user. And first of all, for this, we're going to have a user ID. And of course, we need a username here. We can mark this as required so that we can let Entity Framework Board know that this name field is not nullable. Now, we also need email. And of course, we will want to require email address. This is definitely something that is required here. And we also want to have a role here. And for this field, I don't actually think is required. So maybe, I'm going to create, because we're only going to have two rows. One is like a regular user, like attendee, and the other one is organizer. But because we only have two rows, actually we may have administrator. Okay, then I'm going to use string. And if I'm thinking, if the role like this field is null or empty, then this user is just a regular user, right? And if the user is an organizer, then here it will have to store organizer, like English word. And if it's administrator, then it has to store something like admin or something. So we allow it to be null, and therefore have this required. And what about the name and email? Do we want to limit the length? So we might want to limit the length. Let's say name has, 250. Let's say 200. And email address, let's also use 200. I think that's a reasonable length. I don't think we need anything else, but if we do later, we can do a migration, right? We can add something and then to make the change. So here we have the user. Now we want to have a relationship between the event and the user, and that is going to be captured in the RSVP. So we're going to create a RSVP entity, and we can just call it RSVP. And of course, first of all, we're going to have a RSVP ID, and then we're going to have a event ID automatically generated for me. And yes, a user ID. See, it knows that RSVP is a relationship between the event and the user. So we have that, and we need probably the RSVP date. Oh, it generated the status. So it actually give me, let's actually take this. Give me an example. So it's going, maybe not going, right? So we want this to be required. It also generates RSVP date. So let's take the RSVP date, and I want this to be a required field, but I don't want to have too many possibilities. So I'm going to have either going or not going. Okay, so you either attend or you cancel the RSVP. So now anything else, any other status? The other ones might be related to payment, right? So if the event is not free, then you need to make a payment. And then we have payment status, right? Payment status, which means whether it's pending or completed or refunded. And then we may have a payment ID that is related to maybe a transaction table. But we are going to deal with payment later. I'm actually thinking about whether we should implement payments in this project. I know at the beginning I said that I'm going to implement it, but it feels too long already, this video. I mean, this entire project. We will see. Okay. So we have RSVP and we have user. remember for event, let's actually take a look at event over here. Event, we do have event view component. But that's because, first of all, events is actually something that user gets to create. Whereas user or SVP are system created. So we may not need to have the view component, right? So let's skip the view component. Let's directly just use the entities, like the data entities. So now that we added these two entities, we want to add it to the application DB context, right? Because the DB set corresponds to a table. So we're gonna do the same thing for the other two entities. And now it already knows, or it doesn't know which entity I'm trying to create. It's supposed to be the user. So I'm gonna have users, and then it also generates RSVP for me. Okay, so now RSVPs represent a many-to-many relationship between event and users, because one event can have many attendees and one attendee, which is one user, can join many different events. So this is a many-to-many relationship. So we need to set up a relationship, right, inside the DB context. But before we do that, we need to have corresponding navigation properties. Let's first of all go to event, and then at the very bottom here, we can add a navigation property. So it's going to be a list of RSVP, and we can call it RSVPs, and we're going to create this new RSVP list. And we're going to have the same thing here in user. And then we can use the navigation property, of course, to load potential attendees, or when we look at user, what are the events that the user has joined or planning to join? We can use this navigation property to do that. But right now, what we need here is to set up a relationship. Right? So let's go back to application DB context over here. And then let's go inside this class and let's override the on model creating. So to have a many-to-many relationship, we need to set up the connection or the relationship, right, from user and from event. So it's already trying to generate some code for me. I'm going to accept it, and then I'm going to review it. So this is try to go from event, and my preference is I want to go from the relationship table, which is the RSVPs. I think it's just my personal preference. I think that works better for me. So I'm going to say entities.rsvp. And then I'm going to say it has one. So what does it mean? I'm going to say one RSVP has one user, and one user has many RSVPs. Now it's trying to access this user thing, which we didn't define yet. So we got to go to RSVP over here, and we have this relationship, right? So we can define a event that corresponds to this event ID. But we can say JSON ignore, because when we serialize or deserialize, we don't care about this event. This is only going to be loaded by Entity Framework Core. So here we can say event and event. And now for the user, we're going to do similar stuff. I want to leave this together as a group. And then for user ID, I'm going to have a JSON ignore thing. And this is going to be a user. And that's it. Let's go back. So you can see the red squiggly line is gone. So one RSVP will have one user, and then one user will have many RSVPs. Now we want to come back and set the foreign key. So when I say has foreign key, and then actually trying to generate the code for me, which is we can take this and then remove this ref. So the foreign key is user ID. And I'm going to do a similar thing here. Model builder, and then again we're going to start from RSVP, and I'm going to say it has, actually I'm going to accept everything, and let's review this. So one RSVP has one event, and one event has many RSVPs, and the foreign key is event ID. Okay, so this is perfect. Now we are going to run migration to create these two tables, right? And with this relationship setup, I hope the tables will be created correctly. And also we made some modifications to the event event as well. Let's review. So compare with unmodified, and we see that we added the RSVP. That's the only change, right? And then we have users and RSVP defined like this. Let's go to package manager and let's add migration. Let's say add dash migration. And what do we call this? We can say add user and RSVP. So let's hit enter. And in the meantime, I'm going to open up SQL Management Studio. All right. So migration is added. I'm going to say update database. So I don't have to specify this migration, but if I want to be specific, I can specify the migration name and then I hit enter. Okay, so this is loaded up to. I'm gonna enter my password, and password is wrong. Okay, password is right now. Okay, let's open up and let's take a look at our Meetups database. I don't know whether migration is finished or not, but looks like the migration has been done. And we can also look at this log here. We have migration created, and let's take a look at the migration. So we create the users table, we create the RSVP table, and we have these constraints set up. Let's take a look at the tables. We have 2 other tables created. Let's check the events table, and we have, of course, nothing changed here because we only added a navigation property and RSVPs. We have these columns, and we have these primary key, foreign key, right? So that looks correct. And we have users table. We have user ID, name, email, and role. Okay, and you can see that not now. So this is corresponding to our annotations. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Now, what we need to do is to come back over here. And first of all, when the user logs in, right? When the user logs in, what do we need to do? Let's go to shared folder, and we have the endpoints over here. Right now, when the user logs in, we just sign a user in, which creates the cookie. But before this happens, we need to actually try to create the user record, right, in the database. So what does this mean? So we can get the user information from here. We can get, for example, email, any user information that is already stored in the claims. So we can get those information, but then we will try to create the user record if the record doesn't exist yet. So how do we tell whether the record exists or not? We can look at the email, right? We can do that. And we can create a user if it's not in the database. But I don't know whether I should do it here. Yeah, I guess the only place is this. At this moment, I'm just worrying about organizers versus attendees. So far we have been just only dealing with the possibility of attendees, but I'm still in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking about organizers. How do I tell whether it's an organizer or not an organizer? I guess I don't have to worry about it right now, and if we need to change code, we can change the code later. Right now, I think that, I just did a find, right? I was looking at which is the place that calls the /authentication. So we have this external login buttons, and the external login buttons are being used in 2 different places, right? And eventually when we allow the person, right, to register as an organizer, then we are also going to use the external login buttons. And at that time, we are going to probably modify the external login buttons so that at the place where we do the navigation, so this we're looking at right now, we're looking at the external login buttons, right? So at that place, we are going to probably expose a property here, right? A parameter here to say whether this external login buttons is for registering as an organizer or not. So if the user is trying to register as an organizer, then that parameter is going to tell us it's trying to become an organizer. And then we're going to pass that information, right, to this URL. And we're going to receive that information from here. when we know that information, then we can change this redirect URL to say, sign in callback / organize, something like that. And then I'm going to receive that again from here so that we can, when we create a user record, we can say that the role of the user is organizer, right? And if the user become an admin, then I guess admin users will be slightly different. The admin users can just just go to the database and just insert a record, right? But at least we need to support organizers registration, because organizers is just another type of end user, whereas administrators can contact their developers and directly insert the record into the database. We cannot allow everyone to become administrator. We don't have to have a user interface for that. But I think going through this exercise is going to be helpful. At least for now, I'm convinced that I don't have to worry about it now. I can just try to create the user record. So how do I create the user record? First of all, I need to know the user information. So I need to extract the user claims here. So I'm going to say var email claim. Email is very important. I'm going to get, it's already generated code, right? Get claims from the claims principal here. And the type, I don't think this is correct, because by default, it's going to go from claim types dot, I think this is correct, right? And then we're going to get from, we're going to get name claim, and it doesn't consistently generate the code for me, but it's okay. I'm going to copy and paste it over here. And I go over here, use name. And so I get my name claim as well. The email is absolutely needed, right? Let's actually take a look at, I forgot what I did with name. Is name required? Oh, name is also required. That's fine. I'm going to say if email claim is not now, and at the same time, name claim now. Oh, this is a claim. So, otherwise, I can probably just redirect the user to error place, but become a to-do item. At this moment, we just redirect back to homepage. So the user is not going to sign in. The user has to have the email claim and the name claim from Google. Now, if it's not now, right, they are not now, then we are going to create the user record in the database. And for that purpose, we need to dependency inject the factory. So let's copy some of the record over here. Let's take this, go back here. And then we're going to do what we usually do. We get the context first, which is the DB context. But at this moment, what do we call it here? So this is a context factory. So context, well, this is incorrect because the context is the HTTP context. So let's define this as DB context. And then we're going to use the context factory. And I'm going to say create DB context. Now we're going to create a new user object. So it says it cannot be found, but we're going to do a control dot to import namespace. And then the automatically generated code is correct. I was thinking whether this is necessary or not. Maybe just leave this as null. But we can leave it as a user. So user is basically a attendee. So maybe we can just make it more clear. We call it attendee. Okay. And because of this, maybe we should have it hard coded. Like this, we're hard coding it, right? So that's not a good practice. So how do we do it? So we have this shared helper thing. And this is, yeah, we can use this one. So we can say private constant string, not constant, and it generates this. I don't need it this way. What I want is attend row, and then I can say attendee, right? And I can say organizer row, and it automatically generates this. So attendee, organizer, maybe I'm just have a admin role, and it completely just understands mine, like it knows my mind. All right, so here maybe static, and then I'm gonna go string, and then I could say attendee role, and this is going to be our attendee role like this. Okay, and then I'm gonna do this 2 other times. and it knows to generate the code for me. Okay, so now I don't have to hard code it. So let's go over here, and remember this the shared helper here. At least with the rows here, I don't have to dependency inject, right? Because this is static kind of property here. This is a user, so this is a regular attendee role. So we have name, email, role. Let's peek definition, make sure we have everything. So name, email, role, RSVPs, we don't need to provide that. And the ID is going to be automatically generated. So we don't need to worry about that too. So now, because we have the DB context, we're going to add a user to the DB context like this. Okay, and the green circular line, we can use the question mark, and then we can use save changes. And this is a async method here, so we can use a wait. Okay, so we create a user record in the database. But first of all, we need to make sure that the user don't actually exist in the database yet. So we need to make sure that the email doesn't exist, because the email is actually the identifier. So how do we do that? We can let AI to check if user already exists. Actually, it generates this comments for me. I didn't even read it. Let's take a look at the code that it generates. First, for default, the email equals email. Perhaps I don't want to actually get the user. So I'm going to say any async, and this is supposed to be a Boolean. I think I'm having some problem with my Visual Studio. Anyways, if the user doesn't exist, actually, let's actually get existing user. Okay, instead of using any, we're going to use first or default. Okay, we can get it. And if the user doesn't exist, so existing user is null, then we're going to create a new user. Let's accept it and close this. And I'm going to copy and paste this because I already wrote this. Oh no, user is null, so it doesn't exist. Oh, okay. So it's just reusing this variable, right? And then value, name, email, role, and add to it, and then save. That's correct. Okay, and then user already exists. Update the role if necessary. So update the role if necessary. What about updating the name? It's possible, right? So I'm gonna have name, and then we use this. Updating role. No, I don't want to update the role. So what if a user already registered as a organizer, and then he logs in trying to attend a event, then it comes to here and it overrides, becomes a regular attendee. So I don't want to do that. I'm gonna just update the name. Okay. And also for updating, we don't need to use the update method, because in the case where the existing user is not null, which means user already exists, then the simple change here, change the name here, already makes the change tracker in Entity Framework Core track the change. And then when we do save changes over here, it's going to capture that change and generate correct update statement. So we don't have to do that, right? We don't have to use the update method. Okay, so now we might be ready to do some testing. And let's try to run the application, and then let's try to log in, and hopefully we're creating user records. Okay, let's log in from here and log in with Google. And now let's go to this email, and we have logged in, which means that we have logged in. We already can see from here, and if I go here, we can see this confirmation thing. That means from my database, I should be able to see some RSVPs. So let's go to, no, not RSVP, the users. So let's select top 1000, and we're seeing my name, email, and role here. That's pretty good. Now we created this user record, right? And now we want to test the updates. Well, we don't have anything to update, but we're updating the name anyways. So let's, you know what? I will manually run the update statement. I'm going to say update users, not set name. I'm going to set name to, let's say set to Tom, where user ID equals 1. We only have one record, so we don't necessarily need a filter, but we did. And let's run it again. So name is updated to Tom. Now, if I log out And let's this time log in from here. So attend, and we have this. So login with Google, select my email. If I go here, let's comment out this update statement, and then let's run this, and the name is updated back. So update statement works, insert statement works, the code that we created works. Now we need to work on RSVP, right? Because when we RSVP, where's the RSVP? So go to the RSVP slice over here. So once we RSVP over here, right? So we say, yes, we confirm that we want to RSVP, then we do need to create a record, right? RSVP record. So for that, let's go ahead and create a RSVP event service for this particular slide. Now I need to pause the video. Now I can resume the video because I am not able to bring up this dialog when I'm recording. Something is wrong with my recording software. So here, I'm gonna call it RSVP event service. Click on add. Of course, here I'm gonna take the constructor because I need to dependency inject the IDB context factory here, and this is going to be the application DB context, right? And we're gonna just call it context. Let's minimize this. So we need to close this angular bracket, and here this is context factory, and we need to do a control dot to initialize this context factory. Now go over here and RSVP. We're gonna work on this RSVP event, and automatically it generates this code, and I have to take it. So event ID, user ID, and we get this context, right? Check if the event exists already. So this is trying to make sure that the event exists. So it's complaining about this right squiggly line here. So this exists. Events exist should be a boolean, right? So if it doesn't exist, then I'm going to return false. Check if the user is already RSVP'd for the event. So I'm going to check the event ID equals this event ID, user ID equals to the user ID. So it's already done. Then I'm going to return false. Now we create a new RSVP record, right? Event ID, user ID, RSVP date. UTC now, we can use a UTC time, or we can just use regular time. You know, for a system that is like Meetup, you definitely want to use UTC time, but I don't want to deal with UTC time and then have to convert it back later. So I'm going to just use this regular time. And we add this RSVP in it, and then we save it, and then we return true. Okay, everything looks properly. And we can dependency inject this into the container. Let's go to program.cs, scroll all the way up over here, and let's do builder.services.add. So now I'm becoming lazy. I'm expecting it to generate the line for me, but it doesn't for some reason. Okay, so let's take the RSVP event, go back over here, and inject this into this component. Okay, and then, so are you sure you want RSVP? And we are going to do it. So RSVP, and then we're gonna select this RSVP event async, and it's generating this whole thing for me. Let's see. So event ID, what is this event ID? So we have this event, right? And I'm gonna take the event ID, and we have user, which is the current user. So how do we get the current user? We can get it according to the email address. So that's something we can create from the RSVP event service. Right? We can create another public method, or we can even remove this user ID because we might be able to just pass in the email and then do everything from here. So yeah, so I think I'm going to change this user ID to just a string and then email. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to get the user ID. So var user ID equals, let's say this is DB factory. Well, no, I can't do it here. I'm going to use the DB context. Okay, so context.users.first or default async, and user goes to user.email equals email. And then this, it doesn't like this. In that case, I'm going to provide 0. Why I cannot do this? Cannot be applied to task. Oh, I forgot to wait. I always have this issue over here. Cannot explicitly convert user. Oh, I'm getting a user. Yeah. So var user. And then over here, we can say user ID equals user dot user ID. And maybe I can just make it integer. And over here, I can say, if it's null, then just provide 0. And then I can use the user ID here. So yeah, and then the user ID here is going to work. And now I need to go back. So instead of providing user ID, I need to provide the email address. So the question is, how do I get the email address? So I can try to use authentication state. So I'm going to say var email claim. Oh, it's already generating this code. Let's take a look. So we're trying to get user find first. Type. So do a control dot import namespace, and then it's doing the claim. So this is the user claim, right? And then it's doing question mark dot value. So we're gonna get a value from the claim, which is the email itself. And then we're gonna pass in email. Now we can do a await, right? And we're gonna get the result. Now the event could be null. So let's go inside the RSVP, and maybe we can change this to like this. And if the event ID is null, we're gonna get this event doesn't exist, and then it return false. So this is okay. The still warning me that this could be null, but that's fine. I already changed it, right? I changed it to have a question mark here. Right? So we're gonna have this result, and if we're not able to attend, then we can display a error message here. Okay, so this is the footer bar, remember. Maybe we can display some message here. So let's actually try to have a message here. And I'm just going to put hello here. I want to see how it looks like. And there's an error here. Let's take a look. So this event ID comes in. So at this moment, the event ID cannot be null, because if it's null, then this is going to return false, but it doesn't know. So in order to fix it, I'm going to just use this. It's never going to be 0, but this at least fixed the problem. So let's run the application again, and then rejoin succeeded. We already have myself logged in. That cookie wasn't deleted. So let's try to attend this event. Okay, let's click on, well, not try to, let's look at this. That's why I was doing it. Okay, so it doesn't like it. And that's because I put this one inside this div. So maybe I can create another div and it should work. So this should work. And let's run the application again to see how it looks like. Okay, so you can see the hello is being displayed right here. So let's create a spacing here, class, and then ms3. Let's see whether that works. Let's run the application. And now you can see the spacing is created here. Okay, now let's go back. And here, instead of hello, we need to have error message. So I want to say error message. And this is going to be, let's change this to class alert. And this needs to be declared right here at the bottom. So string error message. And if we get an error here, the result, what we need to do is, if result is successful, we want to navigate. So do we have a navigation manager? We do. Okay, we want to navigate to /event/ I want to navigate to the same event. Okay, just basically forcefully reload the event. And I'm going to provide the ID here. Well, I don't have, oh yeah, I do have the event ID. Okay, event ID and event ID like this. All right, and otherwise we have error. We just display this error message, and we do need to call the status changed, because you see this, when we are looking at this dialog, when the user is looking at this dialog, everything's already rendered. So therefore, if we want to change anything, we have to call this status changed. So the error message is being displayed right here with class alert. And I'm going to make it fail by not calling this. I'm going to make it fail by directly assign it. I just need to make sure that the error message looks okay. So I'm going to trigger that issue right now. Okay, it runs, and then let's say attend. And if I cancel, nothing happens, right? And if I say yes, then the error message is being displayed right here. I guess it's okay to be very big. So I'm okay with that. And then we have this alert thing. So I'm gonna just use style, and then I say color, and let's say red, and font, weight, and I say bold, and try again. All right, click on the attend event, click on yes, and it says error RSVPing for the event. That's fine. Now I'm gonna change this back where we are really RSVPing the event, and we're gonna create the record. It's a relationship. So let's try to see whether this works or not. Okay, so let's try to attend, and then click on cancel. Cancel is fine, and then let's test yes. And now it produced this error. So let's see what this error is. Let's go to console, and it says, so it displays this error because sometime in the past I changed the app settings here. So detailed error is turned on right now. That's why we're seeing those errors. Otherwise, it doesn't show. So an error occurred while saving the entity changes. See the inner exception. So cannot insert the value now into the column status table. Column does not allow nows. So status doesn't allow now. Let's take a look at the entity. Yeah, status doesn't allow now. I kind of understand because the status is either going or not going. So I'm gonna come to the, where is it? Shared helper over here. And again, I'm gonna have some constant, so string, and I say going status, going, and then not going status. Okay. And then we're gonna have the same type of thing. Hopefully it's gonna generate this for me again. Okay, so going status, and then not going status. Very good. Okay, coming back. When we generated, which is inside the RSVP event service here. So when we create this RSVP, right? So we have other stuff to provide. So going, I don't want to hard code this. That's why I'm going to use shared helper, and then I'm going to say going status. So let's pick the definition. We have event ID, we have user ID, we have RSVP date and status. So the date, did we provide a date yet? No. Oh yeah, we did provide the date. Oh, good. Okay, so I think this is the only thing that is missing, right? So let's run it again. All right, so I think everything is running. Let's click on attend and click on yes. So now it didn't create the issue for me. And I believe this is refresh. I didn't pay attention, but let's take a look at the RSVP tables. So select top 1000, and we do see RSVP. There's only, I don't know why it start from 2, but we do have event ID, user ID, RSVP date, and going. At this moment, the only thing left for this video, I think, is that once the user is registered, we want to see a list of attendees. So if you go to meetup.com, right, go over here and just select any event. Let's say I select drum in Richmond Hill, Ontario. It doesn't actually tell me anything. So North York, okay, drum circle. Go down and it says attendee, right? 17 attendees. So we need to list the attendees over here. That's the missing part that I do need to create. So how do I create it? I need to go to the event, and that's the browse event, right? Not browse event, the view event. Now view created event is this one. So this one will need to show me a list of attendees. So I'm gonna have a line break here, and then this H6, I'm gonna use H6, and then I'm gonna say these, and I'm going to create a component out of this. Again, so here I'm gonna have attendees component, or maybe you can call it attendees list, doesn't really matter. And markup, we don't need it. Parameter, we need a list of users. I don't know later, if we just have a list of names. I don't know what are we going to do in the future. Maybe we want to display a picture, right? Maybe we want to display just a name. We maybe want to display email address. That's not a reasonable requirement to display email address, but as you can see that, but it's just not reasonable just to display name. So I'm gonna have a list of users, and the type is user list, control dot, and here I'm gonna test it. I'm gonna say if users is not null, and at the same time users.count is greater than 0, then I'm gonna just provide a list. Right now, I really just want to display a list of names. Okay, sorry guys, I took a break and forgot to click on the record button. So we missed some parts, but I'm very sorry that at this moment, I don't really have energy to go back and do everything again. So I'm not gonna show you what I did. So we were trying to create a list, right? A list of users inside the attendees component. So I just created this. And this is basically, what I did is I copied from this Discover, I think it's called Discover Events component here. See, I copied this and then I just pasted over to attendees component here, right? And I got rid of the image, I got rid of one line, and I'm only keeping this. So I don't know how this is going to turn out. I haven't tried it yet. So this is the part, it's within this attendees component. And then if we go to view event component here, I'm just using this, right? And I created this variable here and provided over here. How do I load these users? I created another method here in the view event service. So where's view event service, which is right here in the same slice. So let's minimize the solution explorer here. So this is the new method I created. I basically created with a AI, but the first time it generated, it wasn't looking good. So I changed it a little bit. I just basically added some code and then it starts to regenerate, right? And this looks fine to me, right? So we create a context and then we use this context to query RSVPs. And then I'm going to include the user in the RSVP, but we have a where statement. We're getting the RSVP for this particular event, right? For the event that is sent in. And then the status has to be going, right? And then I'm going to project it, right? Project the user out. So, which means that I have a list of users. Something wrong with my Visual Studio. It doesn't actually show me the type of this variable. But this is going to be a list of users. Okay? That's why when I return attendees, it doesn't complain. And then I use this service here, this method here in the service to get the users list. And then I feed that user list into the attendees. So in theory, this is going to show a list of attendees in this event, right? So let's run the application and then let's go back to our, I don't know, let's close this because it doesn't even show me the attendees here. So let's run it again and go to SQL. And where's the attendees? That's pretty weird. I don't have anything, like I don't see any error in the console, and on the top I'm logged in. So let's examine what is happening in here. So attendees is right here, and then has this containers thing. Okay, and it's showing me Frank Liu. So Frank Liu is already registered. So something is wrong with this floating bar here, and I think it's related to this padding thing, right? Related to this padding thing. And yeah, I think this layout needs to be fixed. So this padding shouldn't be added to the detail section. This should be added for the, let's say we can add it just for the entire section. And I'm going to take out this and I'm going to put it on the bottom. And now if I select everything, all the markup, and do a Control KF, then I can format it, right? So let's remove this part, format this better. All right, so let's try again. Okay, so this is much better now. Perhaps I don't need to delete, I don't need to have a line break over here. Now this moves up and I see attendees and Frank Liu. And perhaps I need to have a bigger gap here, a bigger padding. Add to 80, and let's see how it looks like. Let's remove this developer tool, and now scroll down. I see attendees Frank Liu. So what if I attend with a different user? I need to log out first, and then log back in, and then log in with Google again. And all of them is actually called Frank Liu. So, well, I'm gonna select the first one, and then it's going to show 2 Frank Lius, but at least we see multiple lines, right? And or not lines, multiple records, and see how it actually looks like. So I just need to see them. Do this, and then click on continue. And now if I go to database, I should have multiple records in the users table, right? So I have this. And interestingly, I forgot to test one thing, which is RSVP with the same user, right? And that should show me the error message. Let's try to RSVP with this new user. And now it moved this, moves up. I'm not sure whether right. So it only moves up because the navigation isn't proper. So are we navigating here? So navigating to this, we need to add a force. So force load, right? Force load 2 to make sure that everybody understand what this is. So I'm gonna add this will refresh the page. This will refresh the page, and it will look like it will show the other Frank. Okay, now let's run this again. The thing is that I was expecting not a list. I was expecting a let's examine this. I was expecting it looks differently. Oh, it's because of we created wrong. Okay, let's go back and fix this. So attendees, I forgot to add the row here. This should work. Let's run again. Okay, now you see I have Frank Liu, and if I make it small, it's gonna break, and it becomes this, which is fine, right? It's different behavior from the Meetup. You can see that Meetup, it doesn't actually go to the next line. But in our case, it does. That's fine. I have no complaint about that. What I want to try again is I want to attend again with the same user, right? And I'm going to see what happens. So click on yes, and then it shows me error RSVP because it didn't tell me what the reason is. Perhaps you can change it to, instead of return a Boolean here, when we RSVP, we can return the error message. But I'm going to keep it as this, okay? It's just there's the error. And then I do want to delete the other user because I don't want to show my email address. So I'm going to delete from users where user ID equals 2. I'm going to execute it. Now, if I run it, it's good. And if I refresh, I see only Frank Liu, and I'm going to log out, okay? Because the user I was in was the my personal email address, not the business one. Okay, but anyway, let's go back to SQL discussion. You can see that we have attendees and we have Frank Liu. Okay, that's everything I want to show you in this video. I will see you in the next one.